I am NAYAK. Me and my team present you our presentation on topic women safety in worldwide.
In today's world, there are various problems and challenges faced by women. Today, we will be looking into them in details. Problems faced by women, an overview. Problem of education, problem related to unemployment, gender inequality, honor crimes, female abortion, ape teasing, challenges faced by rural women versus urban, sexual assault, violence abuse, problem at workplace, travel, problems faced by married women, dowry system, women trafficking, acid attack, child marriage, restriction on widow remarriage. There are so many problems for women in human society, but we will focus on some major issues. Safety has been a major concern for Indian women for many years. Women feel unsafe not only outside but inside their homes as well. A few places in India have such horrific conditions where women feel intimidated to even step out of their house when it gets dark. Gender inequality. Gender inequality is the social phenomena in which men and women are not treated equally. The treatment may arise from discrimination regarding biology, physiology, or cultural norms present in the society. Some of these discriminations are empirically grounded while others appear to be social constructs. Studies show the different experiences of gender across many domains including education, life expectancy, personality, interest, family life, careers, and political application. Gender inequality is experienced differently across different culture and it also affects non-binary.
So now let us discuss about acid attacks. An acid attack, also called acid throwing, vitriol attack or vitriolage, is a form of violent assault involving the act of throwing acid or a similarly corrosive substance onto the body of another with the intention to disfigure, maim, torture or kill. In India, acid attacks are at an all-time high and increasing every year, with 250 to 300 reported incidents every year, while the actual number could exceed 1,000 according to Acid Survivors Trust International. Although acid attacks occur all over the world, this type of violence is most common in South Asia. Eve teasing. What is Eve teasing? Perceived consequences of Eve teasing included tight restrictions on girls' mobility, inability to attend school or work, girls being blamed, and causing family problems. FGD participants suggested that Eve teasing can lead to depression and suicide. What are the causes of eve teasing? The root of eve teasing is mixed in our family and social attitudes or values. The venomous and violent culture of women, the lack of participatory, empathetic, and responsible and healthy relationship between men and women influence in this regard. Moreover, the lack of proper education of the children from their families mostly helps to develop such negative mentally among them. The overall causes of eve teasing are mentioned very easily below. The acute attraction to the opposite sex and women deemed as goods of consumption, the descendants of social values and lack of proper family and moral education, the misuse of technology, the unemployment and desperation, the lack of healthy culture and the harmful effects of electronic and film media, the available use of drug, the lack of proper implementation of relevant legislations, the lack of necessary training of law enforcement personnel, the men's negative attitude towards women in society, the discriminatory relationship between men and women in domestic, social, economic, and political aspects, etc. The challenges faced by women in the workplace. For the last 4 years, Lenin Organization and MC Kinsey have been researching the participation and inclusivity of women in the workplace. While it might seem like the world is progressing and there's a rising involvement of women in the workplace, the reality is quite different. As the report suggests, progress isn't slow, it's stalled. The findings are compelling. According to the research, the issues that concern women the most are work life balance, equal pay, harassment, career opportunities, children and career. Employment trends for women in India. The increase in the number of women in the labor market signifies an important trend regarding women's employment. This has been occurring alongside increases in labor force and workforce, especially for urban women, although rural women workers predominate in terms of participation rates and overall magnitude. The increasing share of women's participation in the labor force and its significant contribution to household income as well as GDP requires some policy attention be paid to the gender dimensions of employment. The 11th 5 year plan document for the first time in the history of India planning recognizes women not only as equal citizens but as agents of sustained socio-economic growth and change. GOI 2008 P5. A multi pronged approach is emphasized to address issues concerning women workers, such as provision of basic entitlements and strengthening of institutional mechanisms. Dowry system. The dowry system can put great financial burden on the bride's family. In some cases, the dowry system leads to the crime against women, ranging from emotional abuse and injury to even deaths. The payment of dowry has long been prohibited under specific Indian laws, including the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961 and subsequently by sections 304B and 498A of the Indian Penal Code. The Dowry Prohibition Act 1961 defines dowry. Dowry means any property or valuable security given or agreed to be given either directly or indirectly by one party in marriage to the other party in marriage, or by the parents of either party to a marriage, or by any other person to either party to marriage or to any other persons, at or before or after the marriage as consideration for the marriage of the said parties, but does not include dower or mahr in the case of persons to whom the Muslim personal law applies.
What does the trafficking of women mean? By the means of threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. What are the causes of female trafficking? The cause of human trafficking in India include gender discrimination, a vulnerability of the impoverished population and the desperation of the impoverished to support their families.
Here are 5 ways to improve gender equality in workplace. First, make longer supply to the country. Gender inequality can be inherent in the informal recruitment process, particularly in male-dominated industries. To address this, recruiters should make their informal shortlist longer, suggest researchers writing in the Harvard Business Review. Adding an additional 3 candidates to an initial shortlist of 3 saw the women to men ratio rises from 1:6 on the original list to 1:4 on the extended one. Second, remove the gender gap. The gender pay gap measures the difference in average earnings between male and female employees. 2020 Women worldwide earn 81 cents for every US dollar earned by a man, according to the statista. This has improved over the years, up from 74 cents in 2015. Still, more work is needed, particularly as women are still less likely to negotiate their salaries. Employers can promote gender equality in the workplace by being transparent about wages to ensure women are not receiving less than men in equivalent roles. Pay brackets can encourage female applicants and employees to negotiate their wage by giving an indication of a reasonable expectation for a particular role. Third, use skill-based assessments. Employers in the UK are encouraged to use skill-based assessment and structured interviews when recruiting to reduce the risk of unfair bias. Asking candidates to perform tasks they would be expected to carry out in the role they are applying for enables organizations to assess their suitability based on their performance. Says a report from the Government Equalities Office, these tasks need to be standardized across all participants to ensure fairness. Recruiters are also asked to use structured interviews, where all candidates are asked the same question in a predetermined order and format. Grading the responses using standardized criteria reduces the risk of unconscious bias. Fourth, have women mentor men. Another way to improve gender equality in the workplace is by letting women mentor men. Mentoring in the workplace can prove invaluable in helping an employee progress their career. The benefits of a junior businesswoman having a mentor to help break the barriers they face are well documented. But specifically, having women mentor men could benefit both parties and society as a whole. By allowing people to learn more about different working and leadership styles, we are hoping that if we encourage more women mentoring men, maybe we can generate more sympathy, more cooperation, and just more willingness to see each other as a people and to work for everybody's success, said study of co-author Chindisimpani, professor of business law at the University of Michigan. Fifth, make work-life balance a priority. Improving work-life balance can benefit both men and women. Insurance company Zurich saw a 16% increase in women applying for jobs after it became the first firm in the UK to advertise all its vacancies with the option of part-time job share, flexible working. It also saw a rise in applications from men. Gender equality in the workplace also widened considerably after women have children, an issue which can be tackled by shared parental leave policies and enabling working parents to share childcare more equally.
Suggestions for solving the problems faced by women in India are as follows. First, in the first place, women should be educated as educational widens their horizons and broadens their outlook, making them aware of their constitutional and legal rights, reproductive rights, and human rights both in their work and in the social sphere. So, mass literacy campaigns should be organized on a large scale. Emphasis should be laid on enrollment and retention of the girl child in formal schooling and non-formal education through incentive schemes such as midday meals, free supply of textbook, uniform, school bags, science kits, scholarship and residential and hostel facility and removal of gender bias in the curriculum. Second, vocational and entrepreneurship development program should be organized to make women self-employed by increasing their efficiency and capability in decision making. Third, parental diagnostics, techniques, regulation and prevention of misuse Act 1994 to ban the sex discrimination of unborn child to check female feticide and infanticide and other enactments relating marriage, divorce, adoption, succession, dowry and moral protection should be implemented for the protection and emancipation of women. Fourth, national and state level commissions for women, NCO, Task Force for Women and Child Development, DWACRA, Development of Women and Children in Rural Areas, ICDS programs should undertake awareness campaigns and legal rights, women's rights, human rights, child rights, as well as about AIDS and STD, population education, health education, environmental education, educational about saving schemes, disaster and management and rehabilitation program with all sincerity and honesty. Fifth, the attitude of husband and other family members should be changed through mass media and other ways. The husband should treat his working wife with respect and as a co-partner. He should help her in the domestic sphere to reduce her stress and strain. Moreover, she should be given the facility of servant and modern and time-saving gadgets to relieve her mental tension and workload. Sixth, proper cribs should be made available at or near her place of work for the proper care of her children while she is away to work. 7. A keen interest and sincere attention of government is highly essential to improve the health and nutrition of their vulnerable sections of their society. Protection should be given against sexual harassment. Women must not be discriminated upon. 8. Women should change their attitude towards their family members and colleagues. They should respect them, be cooperative and inclinated noble qualities like love, affection, sincerity, faithfulness, etc. to maintain smooth relation with them. They should be dressed decently and severely in the office as well as in the public places. Ninth, lastly, women should realize that opportunities will not land in their laps. They will have to create them and, if need be, fight for them. The women should fight back to restore their dignified position in society. They should strive hard to enforce their rights and establish due justice, equality in society, and work hard for total elimination of illiteracy, poverty, dowry ills, and all for effective implementation of all women related programs and laws.
My name is KANAKULYA from Uganda. I am pursuing a bachelor's degree in civil engineering at Civil Raman Global University, and I'm in Group 8A. 2012 Delhi gang rape and murder. The 2012 Delhi gang rape and murder case involved a rape and fatal assault that occurred on 16 December 2012 in Munka, a neighborhood in southwest Delhi. The incident took place when Nibaya, a name used to protect the identities of rape victims, a 22-year-old physiotherapy intern, was beaten, gang raped, and tortured in a private bus in which she was traveling with her male friend. There were 6 others in the bus, including the driver, all of whom raped the woman and beat her friend. 11 days after the assault, she was transferred to a hospital in Singapore for emergency treatment but died 2 days later. The incident generated widespread national and international coverage and was widely condemned both in India and abroad. Subsequently, public protests against the state and central governments for failing to provide adequate security for women took place in New Delhi, where thousands of protesters clashed with security forces. Similar protests took place in major cities throughout the country. Since Indian law does not allow the press to publish a rape victim's name, the victim was widely known as Nibaya, meaning fearless, and her struggle and death became a symbol of women's resistance to rape around the world. Incident. The victims, a 22-year-old woman, JYOTI Singh, and her male friend, were returning home on the night of 16th December 2012 after watching the film Life of Pi in Saket, South Delhi. They boarded the bus at Munka for Dwaka at about 9:30 p.m. There were only 6 others in the bus, including the driver. One of the men, identified as Minor, had called for passengers, telling them that the bus was going towards their destination. Her friend became suspicious when the bus deviated from its normal route and its doors were shut. When he objected, the group of 6 men already on board, including the driver, taunted the couple, asking what they were doing alone at such a late hour. During the argument, a scuffle ensued between her friend and the group of men. He was beaten, gagged, and knocked unconscious with an iron rod. The men then dragged JYOTI to the rear of the bus, beating her with the rod and raping her while the bus driver continued to drive. A medical report later said that she suffered serious injuries to her abdomen, intestines, and genitals due to the assault, and doctors said that the damage indicated that a blunt object, suspected to be the iron rod, may have been used for penetration. That rod was later described by police as being a rusted L-shaped implement of the type used as a wheel jack handle. According to police reports, JYOTI attempted to fight off her assailants, biting 3 of the attackers and leaving bite marks on the accused men. After the beatings and rape ended, the attackers threw both victims from the moving bus. One of the perpetrators later cleaned the vehicle to remove evidence. Police impounded it the next day. The partially clothed victims were found on the road by a passerby at around 11 p.m. The passerby called the Delhi police, who took the couple to Safdarjung Hospital, where JYOTI was given emergency treatment and placed on mechanical ventilation. She was found with injury marks, including numerous bite marks all over her body. According to reports, one of the accused men admitted to having seen a rope-like object assumed to be her intestines being pulled out of the woman by the other assailants on the bus. 2 blood-stained metal rods were retrieved from the bus, and medical staff confirmed that it was penetration by this that caused massive damage to her genitals, uterus, and intestines. Medical treatment and death. On 19th December 2012, Singh underwent her 5th surgery, which removed most of her remaining intestine. Doctors reported that she was in stable but critical condition. On 21st December, the government appointed a committee of doctors to ensure she received the best medical care. By 25th December, she remained intubated on life support and in critical condition. The doctors stated that she had a fever of 39 degrees Celsius and that internal bleeding due to sepsis was somewhat controlled. It was reported that she was stable, conscious, and meaningfully communicative. At a cabinet meeting chaired by Manmohan Singh on 26 December, the decision was taken to fly her to Mount Elizabeth Hospital in Singapore for further care. Mount Elizabeth is a multi-organ transplant specialty hospital. Some doctors criticized the decision as political, questioning the need to transfer an intensive care unit patient for organ transplants that were not scheduled for weeks or even months later. Government sources indicate that the Chief Minister of Delhi, Sheila Dikshit, was personally behind the decision. Hours earlier, Union Minister P. Chidambaram had stated that JYOTI was not in a condition to be moved. During the 6-hour flight by air ambulance to Singapore on 27th December, JYOTI suddenly went into a near collapse, which a later report described as a cardiac arrest. The doctors on the flight created an arterial line to stabilize her, but she had been without pulse and blood pressure for nearly 3 minutes and never regained consciousness in Singapore. On 28th December, at 11 a.m. Indian time, Jyoti's condition was extremely critical. The chief executive officer of the Mount Elizabeth Hospital said that the victim suffered brain damage, pneumonia, and abdominal infection, and that she was fighting for her life. Her condition continued to deteriorate and she died at 4:45 a.m. on 29 December, Singapore Standard Time. Her body was cremated on 30th December in Delhi under high police security. The Bharatiya Janata Party, the country's main opposition party at the time, criticized the high security levels, stating that they were reminiscent of the emergency era during which civil liberties were suspended. One of Jyoti's brothers commented that the decision to fly her out to Singapore came too late and they had pinned high hopes for her recovery prior to her death. Public protests. Public protests took place in New Delhi on 21st December 2012 at India Gate and Razina Hill, the latter being the location of both the Parliament of India and Rashtrapati protests. Public protests took place in New Delhi on 21st December 2012 at India Gate and Razina Hill, the latter being the location of both the Parliament of India and Rashtrapati Bhavan, the official residence of the President of India. Thousands of protesters clashed with police and battered Rapid Action Force units. Demonstrators were baton charged, shot with water cannon and tear gas shells and arrested. Results of protests. In the view of widespread protests, governments at the center and various states announced several steps to ensure the safety of women. The government of Karnataka announced the launch of a 24/7 dedicated helpline 1091 to be operated by the state police to register sexual abuse complaints from women. It is also checking the possibility of setting up fast-track courts to dispose of pending cases pertaining to crimes against women. The government of Tamil Nadu also announced a 13-point action plan to ensure safety of women in Tamil Nadu and said that incidents of sexual assault would be treated as a grave crime and probes would be entrusted to top police officials. The chief minister also said that daily hearings would be conducted in all sexual abuse cases in the state for speedy trials at specially constituted fast-track courts, and women prosecutors would be appointed as government counsels. The Jammu and Kashmir government also announced plans to change the state's law against sexual offenses and gender crimes. The government of Himachal Pradesh decided to set up state and district level committees to review progress of all cases of crimes against women. Execution of convicts. On 20th March 2020 at 5:30 a.m. Indian time, Mukesh Singh, Vinay Sharma, Akshay Thakur and Pawan Gupta were executed at Tihar jail. They were hanged on a gallows specially designed for 4 people. According to prison officials, the 4 convicts refused the offers of a last meal and new clothes prior to the execution. They were blindfolded and did not resist as they were led to the gallows. However, Vinay Sharma suffered a breakdown prior to his execution and began pleading with the guards. 30 a.m. Indian time, Mukesh Singh, Vinay Sharma, Akshay Thakur and Pawan Gupta were executed at Tihar jail. They were hanged on a gallows specially designed for 4 people. According to prison officials, the 4 convicts refused the offers of a last meal and new clothes prior to the execution. They were blindfolded and did not resist as they were led to the gallows. However, Vinay Sharma suffered a breakdown prior to his execution and began pleading with the guards. The 4 convicts were pronounced dead after hanging for 30 minutes. Mukesh Singh reportedly requested to donate